Well, immediately told to leave. Definitely didn't like that question. So we're currently pulling up in Venice. So are the billionaires and super yachts, and now are the Russians. And the sheer amount of money, power, and influence right here in this city right now is staggering. But the Russians, they're not here because they love art. They're here to be part of that power. And right now, Russian missiles are falling on Ukrainian cities while their politicians turn up right here. So I've just arrived here in Venice and I'm going to go straight to the Biennale, and it isn't actually open yet to the public, but what I've got are exclusive tickets to the pre-opening show. It's for journalists and it's for art enthusiasts that want to get there before the general public. But this is critical because the Russians aren't actually going to be here after the 9th of May. The pavilion is only going to be stood for 3 days. But locals here say that those 3 days are the most important period. And that is because it's when the media is here, when the politicians are here, and when the wild parties happen. And all the newsstands across the city have the same headlines, the scandals.
The international jury has resigned this Thursday in a row over the organisation's decision to allow Russia to participate.
So I'm going to head to the Russian pavilion straight away first, because honestly, I'm a pretty recognisable face for the Russian state. They put me on their state TV all the time. They put me on Interpol. Pretty likely that their staff will recognise me and throw me out. So if I can go in really, really quick and try to get an interview, a conversation, something with one of their politicians, with one of their representatives, then this would be amazing. Specifically because no one who has anything to do with that pavilion has given a single statement to the media. They've declined every single request. The Guardian, the New York Times, all of them. So they don't want to speak, and I want to know why. So I'm going to head there right now. So this is the inside of the pavilion. So the whole thing's over 2 stories, and just on the right here is an open bar so everyone can come in and have champagne.
People seem tense. Conversations stop when we get close. I spot a man in the corner wearing a Russian flag pin, surrounded by men in suits with earpieces. The kind of security you don't normally see at an art exhibition. My friend leans over and quietly says,
"Is the ambassador of Russia?"
Suddenly, this doesn't feel like an art exhibition anymore. It feels political, carefully managed and controlled. His security team block us from getting anywhere near him. No questions, no interview, no conversation.
That's it. That's it for today.
Just a wall of Russians closing rank around him. So we wait, because moments like this are all about timing.
Just have a really quick question. Sorry, quick question. Your country killed 30 civilians in Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Why are you using art to whitewash your crimes? Well, immediately told to leave. Definitely didn't like that question.
Within hours, the confrontation goes viral because for the first time, someone had directly confronted a senior Russian state representative inside the pavilion. The Biennale likes to present itself as above politics, but if it's supposedly apolitical, then why is the Russian ambassador to Italy standing inside the pavilion surrounded by security guards? Why is a senior Kremlin representative here at all? Alexei Paramonov is not an artist. He's a Russian state official who has publicly pushed Kremlin narratives about the war, attacking European support for Ukraine as Russophobia. And the moment you see him inside the pavilion, the whole thing suddenly feels very different. Not like an art exhibition, but diplomacy. Soft power.
Okay, so I just got back to my hotel, and honestly today is turning out to be one of the strangest days I have ever been reporting on. And that's because after I got kicked out of the pavilion, I decided to go back one more time, and this time with this trophy here. It's at the bombed hospital. I had this 3D printed in Kharkiv last week. And I did that because I wanted to represent the only award that the Russians deserve at the Biennale, and that's the award for violating international humanitarian law. And I left this trophy outside the pavilion for a couple of seconds, and then something very strange happened, and that's this guy decided to pick it up, run inside, and pretend that none of it happened. I ran right up to him with my phone, and I asked him what on earth he was doing, and he said he didn't speak English, despite saying that in perfect English. He said he didn't know what I was talking about.
Why did you take it?
So then I went to go and get my friend to go and confront him as well and try and see if he could help file a police report, do something to get it back. And I had a really weird feeling about this guy. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I came back to my hotel here and I did a reverse image search of his face, and I found some very nefarious articles of him being in Moscow for the last 30 years, him running visa management services, him with dozens of dissolved limited companies in the United Kingdom, in Sicily, in Moscow, and some articles that seem to link him to helping people get visas. And the entire delegation at the pavilion are filled with people who are sanctioned by the European Union. And I've been wondering for a while how on earth they got here to Venice. And it looks like this guy might actually be at the heart of it, despite denying having anything to do with the pavilion itself to me on camera. The whole thing seems extremely strange. So what I did was I quickly published this report, and in the last few hours the Italian press has actually picked up this story. The biggest newspaper in the whole of Italy, it's about 200 years old, have started investigating him and looking into him and his shady background. And none of this was visible about him before my video went viral. So this report has actually escalated it into media, and now the investigative reporters here in Italy are picking up the trail. So this is a wild moment to be stepping into here. Anyway, it's going to be sunset in the next few minutes here. I'm going to take another walk through Venice and see what other crazy, nefarious stuff this city has to offer right now.
Oh. These are the Russians from the Russian event that are behind me. And I feel like I'm being followed by these people, because that same woman that's posting for harmless selfies right now was on the same door of the Russian pavilion just 30 minutes ago. And I've just walked to the other side of the event space, and they're right here. So, and activists here have told me that they followed them as well. So the whole thing is really, really strange. A friend who helped retrieve the trophy from the Russian pavilion said he's been followed too. This is so weird. You know that woman in the leather jacket who's been following you?
Which one?
She was just standing there the whole time when I was standing here the whole time. And then when I saw them, they started taking selfies. Have you felt followed or harassed by any of the people to do with this?
Oh, of course. Recognize them by face. From earlier yesterday, from earlier today, from this afternoon.
As the atmosphere around the pavilion became more tense, I wanted to know whether all this was in my head or whether other people started to notice it too. So I arranged to meet an artist and longtime Biennale figure who spent years moving through this world. Kate Margolis has been part of the Venice art scene for years. She knows the politics behind the pavilions and has spoken out publicly against Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the normalization of Kremlin influence in cultural spaces. And she told me something unsettling, that I wasn't the first person to feel watched around the Russian pavilion. That artists like her had experienced intimidation before. What kind of Russians are here in Venice right now? You know, I imagine it's not just artists, right?
Over the last 20 years, it's always this kind of arty, glossy, very rich. The palazzo just around the corner belongs to Mikhail's son. He is the oligarch, Putin's friend, producer of gas. The owner is Novatek. He is directly involved in the war production. And also we strongly believe, a lot of our friends believe, that Mikhail's son, he's the sponsor of the Russian pavilion. And we think this institution was the headquarters partially of the whole operation of planning it. And I saw a lot of weird people around it. It looks very neutral, very contemporary. They have this program that appeared in January, and I already spotted it as a strange thing, very Russian, no rules for us. And there was this dance around the rule. And now with the opening of the Russian pavilion, we see exactly what is behind it. It's dancing around the sanction.
One sec, the photographer who was there was taking photos of us. Did you see him from Kafor?
Oh, good.
Good. He was just taking photos, I just know that.
Where?
I don't know, just someone.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's that guy there.
Yeah, strange, but he took photos on his camera. I just didn't know how long he was there for. It's quite strange.
Lot of following, lot of secret filming.
This happens here a lot? And who is doing that? How would you describe that situation?
They have to report to someone. Also, I had a very, talking of FSB, I had a guy comes out and said, "Are you Kati Mongolis?" And I said, "Yes," in Russian. And I said, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you in person. You're such a memorable and bright personality. I really wanted to pay my respect personally." And I said, "Who are you?" I am the correspondent of RIA Novosti, reporting in Rome. We, think you were following you very closely. And he went back. Of course, it's kind of difficult KGB operations, leaves you very uneasy, of course. And it's just totally polite. I couldn't even complain to police or anywhere. It's not even a direct threat. So that's what they do. It's so repulsive. It's so alien to what Venice is.
Okay, so it's our first night here at Venice Biennale, and we've just received a dossier, and it's honestly damning. Every single person who's performing at the Russian pavilion is either an artist or a musician, but what this dossier seems to show is that every single performer in some way is somehow connected to the Kremlin, to state power, to statehood, or they performed in places like occupied Crimea or directly repeated Kremlin lines over the last few years. And this starts to paint a picture, and I'll go through the names in a couple of minutes here and look at each example and each individual source here. But this has come from a very reputable source as well, the Molfar Institute, which specializes in this exact type of investigation into Russian interference networks around the world. And this looks damning, especially on night one, knowing that the pavilion is just open today, knowing that these people are here, and half of these names are sanctioned by the EU right now, which raises further questions about why they're even here, how they're even here. But for now, we should go through and have a look at who some of these people are. We've got Anastasia Karneeva. She's an art curator on the surface, the daughter of a former FSB general connected to one of Russia's biggest weapons manufacturers. And then we've got Roman Malyavkin. He's a musician linked, according to the dossier, to institutions that performed for future FSB officers and projects surrounding Russian troops fighting in Ukraine right now. We've got Mikhail Spassky, a sound engineer on the surface, directly tied to Russian state academies. These are military-linked cultural programs. And the rest of them basically all performed at events in the last few years, supporting what Russia calls their special military operation. And all this stops feeling like a simple art festival and starts feeling like something much darker. The Russians have used this event, used this city as a sort of Trojan horse to sneak in their state operatives, to sneak in their ideas through art. And one of the main features of this entire festival, one of the reasons and justifications for Russia being back this year, is because art should have nothing to do with politics. And that sounds great on paper, but that doesn't seem to be Russia's intention. They seem to be using art to smuggle in their politics. Today, the Biennale opens to the public. Big crowds, big press, big speeches about culture and dialogue. But there's just one question no one seems to be willing to answer. Who actually allowed the Russians back in? And one name keeps appearing over and over again. Pietrangelo Buttafuoco, the president of the Biennale, a right-wing figure who defended Russia's return and described the Biennale as a place that shouldn't judge countries politically. Then leaked emails emerged. They show him coordinating directly with Russian pavilion organizers over visas, logistics, maps, and how to avoid breaching EU sanctions. According to multiple reports, he was right at the center of it. So naturally, I wanted to ask him about it. But there was just one problem. Nobody could find him. I contacted his office, his press team, his assistants, nothing. No interview, no statement, no comment. Which is slightly awkward when you're the president of the Venice Biennale on opening day. So I decided to go looking for him myself. Oh, hello. Do you know this person?
This is the manager of the Biennale.
Is he still president now?
Yes.
Because he's not been here. No, I haven't seen him in the last few days.
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Do you know who this is?
This is the president of the Biennale.
Do you know where he is?
Where he is now?
Yeah, have you seen him?
I don't know where he is.
Do you think that's a bit strange? Because he's the president of the exhibition, but I haven't seen him anywhere. He's not around. It's quite weird. Is that normal every year?
I don't know.
Okay, so we've established that the president of this place doesn't want to be around the public, doesn't want to be around all these pesky artists. So maybe he's hiding in one of these pavilions. Let's go and check it out. Do you know where this person is? Yeah.
Then I don't know now exactly where is Nale, yes.
Ah, okay. Okay, so the president of the Biennale seems to be the only person that's less visible than the Russian oligarchs right now. But honestly, it's a bit weird. You'd think, after inviting the Russians back during the war, that you might stick around to answer a question or two. This guy's acting like a Cold War fugitive right now at his own festival. Oh, hey, I just have a quick question. Do you know who this is?
He's the president of Biennale, yes.
Do you know where he is?
Where is? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you anyway. All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm following you since the beginning of the war. You're
No way.
Caolan.
Yeah, nice to see you.
So nice to meet you. I really admire you. I'm a journalist too. So.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to be filming, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Do you know who this is?
He's the president of the Biennale, Pietrangelo Buttafuoco.
So I have spent all day looking for him. I've asked the staff, I've asked everyone, and he's nowhere to be found.
But me
Very
neither.
hard.
I invited to my program and he said no interviews.
You know, same with me.
Good luck. He can
Yeah.
hide very well if he wants.
Oh my God. Well, it seems like it. Of course, the only person that knows who he is another journalist that didn't get an interview. So Pietrangelo was nowhere to be found. But someone else did show up. Matteo Salvini, Italy's deputy prime minister and one of the country's most outspoken right-wing politicians. Salvini arrived at the Biennale and went straight to the Russian pavilion. He praised the decision to let Russia return and argued that art and culture should be immune from boycotts. He spent 25 minutes inside the pavilion, watching performances and being welcomed by the Russian organizers themselves. And honestly, this was probably the moment that Russia wanted most, because this was never really about how many people visited the pavilion. The public wasn't even allowed inside after the press days. What mattered was this image, this footage, and this symbolism. A senior European politician walking into the Russian pavilion while the cameras rolled. Russia didn't need crowds. It needed legitimacy. And that's exactly what this entire operation feels designed to achieve. By the time the Biennale's doors shut for the evening, the Russians had already got everything they came for. The interviews, the footage, the headlines, proof that they were back inside one of Europe's most prestigious cultural institutions. And honestly, that might be the biggest victory of all. Because the Biennale is often called the Olympics of the art world. And little by little, Russia has been finding its way back into spaces like this. Into festivals, opera houses, sporting events, cultural institutions, not through tanks, through invitations. Before leaving Venice, I wanted to speak to someone who understood exactly what that meant.
Russian culture, Russian art is part of propaganda, the same way as the sports. We saw the same approach in the sport in Olympics, because many famous people from Russia was there, like with Russian flags, with some Soviet Union symbols, and that's how it works in Russia. So suddenly, you should also keep in mind that it will be used in Russian propaganda. It will increase awareness about Russian coming back to the arenas, and even civil population of Russia who is now in Russia, like they will see it as a sign that they're doing something good in the world, yeah, because they're part of world society again. When people ask me, do you still have war in Ukraine? And I think it's also because of these events and also because Russians are coming back, because people start to forget again about war, art or Russian culture, Russian filmmakers and Russian sports. It's the same, part of the same propaganda, and it served as a tool for propaganda. So of course, to see them here, like in Biennale, in all the festivals, in the sport arenas, it's very shameful. And people start to normalize their actions. And I think it's the biggest problem here, because people start to forget about what's happening in Ukraine.
How do you feel seeing it on a personal level?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm very thankful for your work, because I think it's very important to show it, because when nobody is doing this work and nobody approaching Russian embassies and ambassadors, then it's going like it's going, and you see more and more Russians everywhere. And it's important to highlight these moments, that what they're doing here. And you can see some FSB faces here too, I believe.
8 weeks before arriving in Venice, I sat down with the president of Ukraine. And during our interview, he warned that Russia uses culture as a weapon. Not just missiles, not just propaganda, culture. Platforms designed to slowly make Russia look normal again to the outside world. At the time, sitting in Kyiv, it sounded like a warning. But then I arrived in Venice. And suddenly, all of it made sense. On my final night here, I sit across from one of the most famous journalists in Russia, Putin's goddaughter.
Did you come here to whitewash the crimes at this festival?
Because the Russians are in town, not hidden away, right here in one of the most prestigious cultural events on Earth. And despite the controversy, despite the protests, despite the pavilion being closed to the public, they got exactly what they came for. The footage, the headlines, the photographs, the legitimacy. By now they're probably on a flight back to Moscow with hard drives full of material showing Russia back inside Europe again. And that matters, because we've seen this before. In 2014, after Crimea, Europe was horrified. Then, slowly, everything returned to normal. The concerts returned, the operas returned, the red carpets returned, the festivals returned. Then came 2022, shock, outrage, isolation, and now, slowly, it's happening again. Russian celebrities back at major cultural events, Russian performances returning to European stages, Russian influence re-entering elite spaces through art, music, fashion, and culture. Not through force, through familiarity. And that is what this film is really about. Not one pavilion in Venice, but how quickly the world forgets, and how authoritarian power doesn't always return wearing a uniform. Sometimes it arrives dressed for opening night.